From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spar on the radio.
Hello to Kiki Cubb. How are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. So can you tell me, how long have you playing that piano you got beside you there?
This one, this is a whole story by itself. The way I got this piano, it's more than 100 years old piano that I got from Massachusetts. I got this piano, I'd say 2014, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember exactly. I composed music my entire life, but I didn't have a piano like this for my entire life. So it was a blessing to get that. And actually, in 2018, that's a big part of my musical journey. I had not started as a professional musician, as a composer yet. And in 2016, my house burned down. So I went through a major trauma, but not the whole house burned, and this piano got saved. See, that was destiny. It got put in storage, but the story is that for 3 years, I didn't have access to it. I didn't have a piano. I didn't compose. I didn't play for 3 years. And when I got it back, it was just I cannot explain the creativity going on steroid. It's like I missed it so much, and I started creating music, a piece of music after piece of music. And I didn't know what to do with it. And a friend of mine is actually a professional violinist with a symphony orchestra here. And she had heard me telling her for a long time, I compose music, you blah, blah, blah. She said, well, I'm coming to your house. And the reason why I'm telling that story is because she's the energy that fueled my energy and got me started on that musical journey. That's why I have to mention her. So she said, I'm coming to your house, Kiki, and you're going to play for me. And I want to hear your piano pieces. So I had composed 2, I believe, when she came, 2 or 3. So I play a little bit of it. And then she stopped me and she said, you got to record that. And I'm like, what do you mean record? And she said, people have to hear it. You need to share that music. And that's how it started. That's how my musical journey started. She kept pushing me to do it. And I said, okay, let's do it.
So can you tell me more about you?
About myself? Well, as you can detect, I was not born in America. I was actually born in France, in the northern part of France, where I spent my youth. And then I immigrated to the United States some time ago. And my mother was a great inspiration for me, because she was a pianist, and not a professional pianist, but she was a trained pianist and playing classical music. And through my entire youth, I was, there was music around. There was my mother's music. And when she was not playing the piano, she was just putting, music to listen to. And I myself I'm a trained pianist. I studied piano for 9 years, from the age of 9 to 18. But I was not a great classical pianist because I didn't apply, I didn't apply myself. So I would say average, but that allows me to be able to use a piano and to compose, my training. And this is why in a lot of my pieces, sometimes you can hear that training, you can hear the classical, they call that contemporary classical, modern classical, and it's because I cannot deny my 9 years of training in, learning Chopin and Beethoven and Bach and all those musicians. So
can you tell me more about the track that you released called Hope?
So Hope, this is kind of I actually forgot how to play it. I would have played a bit of it, but I have not practiced it in a long time. Hope was actually the very first piece that I released in 2000, in the spring of 2019. Kind of a simple, but not so simple ballad. This is kind of my vibe. This is what I compose the most, and lately, this past couple of years, especially with Ukraine, the piece I created because I was inspired by the tragedy happening in Ukraine. I have started composing more dramatic pieces, but I just love those ballads. So the way that came is I was thinking of my mother who passed away a year before I got my piano back, and I was thinking of her and missing her, and this melody came, and so I owe it to her. So wherever you are, Mom, and it inspired me to call it Hope. This is actually my biggest struggle, is to find the right title for my pieces. I don't know if you've met people like that, but it's so critical to find the right appropriate title, and I'm never worried about that. Usually I create my music organically. I very rarely have, sometimes I do, I have a couple of little notes, that I'm obsessing in my head. And then I go to my piano practicing this and that. And then something comes and something doesn't come. That's the way. And usually I go on my piano if I'm inspired that day, and I'm putting my fingers, and then, this is nice. And then I start building on it. Only one time I remember, a couple of times, but one time I was completely driven, and it was when the cathedral in Paris burned. It was in, when was it? In 2020, I guess. Or maybe it was 19, I forgot. But anyway, it was very early on my journey, and I received a text from a friend. Did you watch the TV? And I'm like, no, I'm busy. I'm not watching the TV. And she said, well, you better turn it on. And I turned it on, and I saw the cathedral in flame. And my reaction at first, it was CNN. I'm like, they're shooting a movie about the cathedral, and I thought it was special effect. I couldn't grasp, the fact that it was on fire. And then I realized it was real, and I couldn't take my eyes off of my TV. It was just, it's very special to me, having spent my youth there, and having been there many times. And then I saw the spire falling, and then the thing getting worse, and then I couldn't watch it anymore. I turned on the TV, I went to sleep, and in the next morning, I went on my piano, and within 20 minutes, I had that piece called Notre Dame created. It was just, I created it during the night. I don't know what happened in my head. I was so upset, and so moved and upset about what happened. And so this piece is going back and forth between the despair and the hope at the end. And then at the end of the piece, you can hear like almost the bell. It's like the cathedral is rebuilt, which is going to happen. Actually, it's supposed to be finished at the end of next year. And then you see the big bell ringing, in glory, because the cathedral was saved. So, but that was the only one that I can recall, immediately creating something directly connected to just major thing that I saw. So usually it's very organic, and I never know what's going to come up. I never know what I'm going to create.
So can you tell me more about raindrops?
Oh, raindrops. Raindrops, for which there is actually a really cool video on my YouTube channel. I think I'm trying to remember and be true to how the process happened. I think I got a couple of those notes in my head. That was actually the main melody. And that week it rained. And I link the note to the rain. And I decided, okay, I'm going to create a piece with staccato, those keys hit like this to symbolize the drop falling. And that's how it got created.
So can you tell me more about the track called The Wanderer?
The Wanderer. So The Wanderer was, so I really love that piece. To these days was on my top 5 that I've composed. The Wanderer, it came without a title, to be honest. I created that piece like I always do, organically. And the more I added to the first part I created, the more I started seeing images of someone wandering, reflecting on stuff and wandering in nature. And so I continue creating that piece. And actually, there is a story attached to it. I went to the recording studio. I just had finished recorded it. And my producer, my recording engineer said, can you come in a studio such a day? I made it for you to be on a piano and play something for me. I may use, somebody is going to shoot a video. And he didn't tell me more. And so I said, sure, I'll come. So I go to the recording studio. And here is this tall guy I've never seen before called Rob Gilbert. And my producer introduced me to him, and he said, hey, this is Rob. He's actually a photographer and an AP in Los Angeles, and he's coming to do a video for me and blah, blah, blah. And we want you in the background playing. So I proceeded to just do whatever on the piano. And then Rob shot the video. And then he said, oh, is that something you created? And I said, yes. And I must have been the Wanderer because I just created it and recorded it. And he said, oh, can you play more? And I said, sure. So I played a little more. It was pretty fresh. And then he said, oh, I love that music. And he said, have you ever considered doing a video for it? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to do video for most of my pieces. I wouldn't mind doing a video. And he said, have you ever considered doing a video outdoors? And that's how it came up. So we set it up for a few months. He went back to LA. He's very busy. I mean, he does a lot of very, very big ad campaign, national ad campaign. He's very busy. And so he went away for a few months, and then he contacted me again and he said, hey, I'm going to be in Maine. I think it was March. I'm going to be in Maine in March or April. And are you free that weekend? We can shoot the video. And so we shot the video in Acadia Park in, I think it was Northeast Harbor. And he had rented a piano that was actually off tune. It was just like the perfect nightmare. It was off tune. And so we did the recording with my recorded track on my phone, hidden behind the top of the piano. And I was just playing back because I had to actually be a bit of a schizophrenic and forget that the piano was off tune and concentrate to what my phone was was throwing at me. And that's how it happened. And we shot that video over a day using drones to have shots, from the sky. It was a very, very surreal experience to have those drones. That's the first time I work with drones, and to have those drones coming and being like this close to your face, hovering, and you got to keep playing, and there's this buzz, of the drone. It was a cool experience, and so I'm very attached to that track, The Wanderer, because it's every time it reminds me of the shooting of that video. It's so forever linked. I can never forget that video we shot. It was very special.
So was it like recording your first EP called Chasing the Dream?
Chasing the Dream, yes. I actually decided to call my first EP Chasing the Dream because that's when I started realizing I need to pursue my number one dream. My number one dream is not to be famous. I don't care about that. It's not to be rich. I don't care about that. My number one dream, excuse me, is to have my music associated with visual, more specifically to be part of a movie, or many movies, but on a movie. Because it's every time I compose, I see scenes of something. Very often it's period movies, horses in the field with people in costumes and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Maybe I watched too much of Downton Abbey and the reruns. So that's how it came about, Chasing the Dream, because this is what I'm doing. I have not had yet my music in a major movie or in a movie. I'm pursuing it actively. So that's how it was created, with different tracks in it, including Oblivion, which is about reminiscing the past. And Rob did a little bit of a video using his own footage of New York City to go with Oblivion. And then The Wanderer is in it. And then I forgot what's in it. Oblivion. What is the other one? Oh, there is another track. I forgot the name. The ones we left behind. That one is also on the EP, and that one is very special. It was created during COVID, the beginning of COVID, and a very good friend of mine had lost just her husband. He didn't die from COVID, but it was all mixed up, for me. And as so many people died, and we, at the time we didn't have any vaccine, nothing. So it was a tragedy. And I was thinking, well, those people are gone to a better world. But what about the people who left behind? The people, especially under those circumstances, when a lot of people couldn't say goodbye because those people were in a hospital on a ventilator. And I know somebody in my family who is a physician, and said, in the ICU, many times they would take an iPad, and the medical staff would just replace the family in the isolated room so they could say their goodbye. And so it was really all of that made me very emotional, and that's how I created The Ones Left Behind.
So I'm originally from Cornwall, so can you tell me more about Savage Sea? So
Savage Sea, actually, I have not seen Cornwall, but I would bet you that the coast of Cornwall is very likely closely related to the coast of Maine. Maine has several thousand miles of coast. It's like Brittany. It's very rocky. I mean, the southern part of Maine is pretty flat up to a little bit over Portland. And then when you pass Portland, it starts to be that rocky coastline with a lot of lighthouses and the ocean crashing on the rocks. And that's how it inspired me, because many times I've been driving along the coast of Maine and see, especially in the winter, when we have those bad storms and you see those big waves crashing on the rocks. And that's how I created Savage Sea. That's about a sea out of control that's crashing on the pier or on the rocks.
So can you tell me more about a mother's love?
About what?
A mother's love.
Oh, a mother's love. A mother's love is a tribute to all the mothers. Having lost mine, you know, and I was not there when she passed away, so I couldn't say goodbye. I did go. She was sick for a while. I did go see her when she was sick, but I was not there when she passed away. And it, you know, when you lose your mom, you have lost your mom, or if your mom is away and for some reason you have not seen your mom in a long time, you never want to forget that this is an unconditional love forever. It doesn't matter the distance, you know, for a mom, you usually the most precious thing is our children. And so I wanted to give a tribute to the love, the unwavering, forever lasting love that the mother have for their children.
So can you tell me more about, because you mentioned Ukraine, so can you tell me more about Ukraine and uncharted waters?
Ukraine. So Ukraine is another story altogether. I was looking for, I decided at the time, for sure, I'm going to create a piece of music because there's so much happening. It's got to translate into music for me. So I decided for this piece that it needed to be a little more dramatic because it was about the conflict, those people being invaded and the people dying and the family torn apart. And I decided, okay, I want to orchestrate that piece. It's not going to be just piano. How am I going to do that? So I reached out to my friend again, who is a violinist. And I said to her, I really would like to do something with you, another musician, and do a real orchestration, not with artificial, software. So she said, well, send me your home recording of your piece, so I can see what it sounds like. And so she said, yeah, that definitely we could add, adding violins and cellos and stuff. And then at the time she said, well, do you know such a person? And I said, no, I've never heard of him. And she said, he's a genius with writing, sheet music for different instruments. And he's not even a violinist. He's a musician, but not a violinist. And she said, let me reach out to him and see if he would like to get involved with that project. And he said, sure. And so that's how it started. So we recruited another musician from the orchestra, the symphony orchestra, a cellist. And then he said, okay, I'm going to start working on it. And then he started working on it. And he said to me, do I have freedom? I said, you have all the freedom. You just create the violin piece, the cello piece, and let me know how it goes. And so he did. And then he said, it's a little bit out there. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to hear. And then when I heard what he created, I was in awe. He had created multiple tracks. So actually, we met after everybody's day work, and we went to the studio. I had that same day at noon. I had recorded. The pressure was on because I had to put it in the can, my part, the piano part, and I had an hour and a half to do that. So I was very, very prepared, as I always am when I go to recording studio, and I did it. So it was recorded. So we all met at the recording studio. I think it was 8 o'clock at night. And the guy who wrote the part for the violin and the cello was also he was conducting them. And they started working. And I was up there in the studio, next to my producer, and watching the magic happen, the track. So they recorded one track, and then the different range up and down another track, and I think it was 3 different tracks. So when you hear it, you hear like there are multiple violins and multiple cellos, which is true because they did record several tracks. And then my producer put all of it together. And so it's a pretty dramatic piece, maybe one of my most dramatic pieces, but I wanted it that way. And I had created another one, which I kept on the back burner because I said that one is for when the war is over. So it's on the back burner, and I'll go back to it later down the road, hopefully.
Well, you mentioned the horses before, a while ago, so can you tell me more about wild horses?
So Wild Horses, that one came absolutely 100% after, in my head, I was seeing why it was not just horses, it was white horses. I was seeing white horses galloping free of any, not restrained by anything, nobody riding them, nothing, on the beach, on the edge of the water. This is what I had in my head even before I created the piece. And so basically I created the piece matching the visual that I had in my head. So I hope I succeeded. I hope that when people close their eyes, they can visualize those horses, running in the water.
So could you tell me more about your latest single called Nostalgia?
The what?
Your latest single.
My latest single, Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nostalgia just came out actually 2 days ago. So I went back to my first love of creating emotional, sentimental ballads, because if you listen to Rebirth was one of my only 2 collaborations. I collaborated with 2 musicians, one who did the violin and one who did the electric guitar and the drums. And it's a very very dramatic cinematic piece because it was created with the intent of placement, of being used in movies and stuff. So after doing Rebirth a year ago, I did Daydream, was a very minimalist piece. And I decided to go back to that, to that sentimental, nostalgic ballad. And it was a very easy piece to compose because I was back emerging to my first love. So that's how it came about. And it's nostalgia. It's about, to me, nostalgia is not necessarily, it's not a bad thing. It's a proof that we are alive, that we feel, maybe there is something that we didn't get to see in our past, and maybe we are nostalgic, but then there is a past to get back to that. And if not, if it's something that's done, then at the same time that there is a little bit of sadness, there is also the other memories attached to that thing of the past, So yeah, nostalgia for me is just, it's not really a negative. It's not a negative thing. It's just part of being a human being and, fluctuating between ups and downs.
And finally, can you tell my listeners where can they find you on social media?
Find me on social media? Yes. I'm everywhere. So you type Kiki Cubb you Google Kiki Cubb and boom, you will have everything. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I have a big presence on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I am on Threads. I'm on Twitter, and I have a YouTube channel. So it's pretty busy. I'm a one-person business, so it keeps me busy. Take care of all of that.
And just finally, can you tell me how's being an independent artist for you?
So this is there is a dilemma for many artists about chasing and working really hard to be signed by a record label, a big one like Universal or Capitol, Sony, all of those, or an independent record label, or doing your own thing. So they both have their plus and their cons. So the opportunity has not presented itself for me to sign with a major record label. The good thing about signing with them is they take your career, they take charge of your career. They take care of the marketing, they take care of the promotion and all of your branding, of your image. Though I would say the things have changed a lot. The things are now very different since the music platform have arrived. It used to be in the past, decades ago, you would send your CD, a CD demo or whatever. And so now, and then they would, you would have those A&R people in those major recording label who would groom you and put you to maturity to be ready to just get on the big stage. Well, now it doesn't work that way. I think most of those record labels are looking for people who are already established, which is sometimes difficult. You need to have a big presence out there on the social media as well as obviously on the music platform. So to be an independent artist, yes, you do not have that. You do not have the big machine behind you, but at the same time, you're free as a bird, as a creator. You're free as a bird. And yes, you have to work harder because you got to chase everywhere you want your music to go. You got to work for that. Nobody's going to do that for you. But to me, it's important to keep my creativity intact, to be able to do whatever I want, to create whatever I want. Though now gearing towards movie placement and TV and ad, it's a different ballgame because now you create on demand. You have to basically, it's no longer, I create the piece that I release whenever I want on the Spotify and all the other music platform. Now you're creating music that needs to find its rightful place somewhere. And so it needs to fit a market, So right now, this is why I'm learning hip hop, because I know what hip hop is, but I'm totally foreign as a composer to that genre of music, because this is not what I've composed since I started composing. And I find that exhilarating to learn something completely new. So I'm actually finished my first track, hip hop track. I recorded in a studio last week, and my producer is taking care of the drum effects, and then I'm gonna work on building more of that. So, it's also a plus to be an independent artist in that regard, is that you're not imposed direction for your career. You are your own person.
Your own boss.
Yeah, you choose your career, you choose your path, and if it doesn't work, you modify that's the way I look at it.
Thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Goodbye.
Everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.